Good evening, everyone. I'm Brigadier General Retired Pete Jones, and I have the privilege of being the president and CEO of the National Infantry Museum Foundation, and really the sponsor for this great event. On behalf of Rachel and really the entire Museum Foundation staff and all of our partners, I want to say welcome you to Columbus, Georgia. As we prepare tomorrow to rededicate the Global War on Terrorism Memorial for the third time since it was dedicated in 2017, we truly appreciate that you have traveled so far to come here and that you feel safe enough to join us here in Columbus. Tonight, we have over 360 Gold Star family members registered to attend, representing 117 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. One business in particular I'd like to single out, and that is Liberty Utilities. Yes, thank you, sir. Those of us who live here at Fort Benning know that Chuck Rossi has been a figment in our lives, but unfortunately cannot be here this evening. His business is taken down to a very far-flung away place called Barbados. But before he left, he wanted to make sure that you have something to walk away with. So hopefully as you all left, that each family you received this Global War on Terror Memorial Christmas ornament to commemorate this event tonight. And that is on behalf of Liberty Utilities to show that they love, honor, and cherish your loved one's sacrifice. Again, I thank you for honoring us with your presence this evening, and I hope this little get-together has allowed you to realize you're not alone. There are other Gold Star family members here that will reach out and join you to talk about your loved one's service and sacrifice. The city will reach out and touch you because we cherish your service and your sacrifice. So as we enter into the dining room, several of us will be on the sides because there's one other thing we want to give to each and every of you, big and small, and that is a Gold Star GWAT Memorial coin. So that wherever you go, if you link up with somebody that's been here tonight, I think all of you understand the coin challenge, that they can always recognize you for being somebody that has been here, and hopefully you can encourage others in the years to come join us the first Saturday after Labor Day to continue to commemorate our loved ones. Thank you for being here, and we'll open up the curtains over here to your left, my right, mirror imaging, and we'll head into the dining room area. Thank you again. Good evening again, everybody. On behalf of Lieutenant General Retired Tom Metz, the President and CEO of the National Infantry Museum Foundation, Dr. Carl Savory, our Vice Chairman of our Board of Directors, Mr. Jim Weaver, who's the Chairman of our Board of Advisors, along with General Retired Chuck Jacoby, our Advisory Board Chair, and really the whole museum staff. Again, I'd like to welcome you to Columbus, Georgia, and this is the Bib Mill Event Center, and if you could, give all of them a round of applause for setting this up for us. I truly appreciate the members of our Board of Directors, our National Advisory Board, our 1775 Society, our community and business leaders that I talked about earlier, and all the folks that have sponsored us. As we run a nonprofit, I've learned that I have to thank all the sponsors, so I'm going to go through a quick list because, one, I think they deserve the recognition, but I also want to show you, the Gold Star families, that there are people behind you that support this event and support you. First, our presenting sponsor is the Pritzker Military Museum and Library out of Chicago. Our Gold Star brunch sponsor for tomorrow is the Charon Family Outreach Foundation, and they're doing that in honor of Colonel John McHugh, who was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. And since 2014, if any of you have been a part of this great organization, they founded the Johnny Mack Soldiers Fund, which focuses on awarding scholarships totaling right now up to $16 million to Gold Star children. So if there's an interest in here, please see me afterwards. To our event sponsors that you'll see up on the wall, the National Infantry Association, our partners in crime in the museum, Raytheon Technologies, Mr. and Mrs. Tony Link, the Honorable Judy Thomas, and the Dr. and Mrs. Carl Savory, and Judges Mrs. Becky Rumor. We appreciate your support as we go forward. There is one individual that doesn't want to be recognized, but I'm going to do it anyway, because he's a man that people I've learned cannot say no to. So will Mr. John Schinkel please stand up? He is a member of our board, and believe me, his tenacity has ensured that we were able to help fund this event. And I will pay for that later because he runs a lunch bunch that he'll beat me up at. These folks and countless other donors have banded together so tonight we can do what is really important. And that is celebrate the service and sacrifice of your soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine who has paid the ultimate sacrifice defending our nation in what is now America's longest continuous conflict. While you are, I've announced these distinguished guests, really the distinguished guests are you. Because what I have learned from you, my Gold Star family members, is that you truly understand and really are the ones that understand the depth of sacrifice this war has been on our nation. You know what it entails to lose a loved one, but we are truly honored by your presence, and we seek tonight to not only honor your loved one's service, but the sacrifice is yours as well. And that being said, what I'd like to do is ask Chaplain Bob Plaskowski to provide this evening's blessing.
Before I pray, I just want to say thank you very much. This is the second time my wife and I have been able to come to this event, and I have to tell you it's been more of a blessing to us than you can ever imagine. And we thank you for being here, for sharing your stories, for sharing your struggles, and sharing all the wonderful things you've been doing. You truly don't know the impact you have on the rest of us, and I just want to say thank you so, so much. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, thank you for bringing us together this evening. Thank you for safe travels for all these family members and friends and loved ones. Help this day be a blessing and a grace to each and every one here. No one can understand what folks have been going through, but we can truly understand and see your hand in lifting them up and loving them and drying their tears, laughing with them as they tell stories and reminisce, and giving them the grace, strength, and courage to go on and do great things to build up your kingdom. Let this tonight event and tomorrow be a true blessing for all of us. May it help us to bring up your kingdom of peace in this very troubled world. We thank you for your love, and we thank you for being with us. Amen.
Hey, I'm Andy Redmond. I work at the National Infantry Museum Foundation. We're honored to have you here this evening. I get to be the guy that kind of gives you the administrivia for tomorrow, kind of tell you what to expect, what the schedule's going to be, and just a couple of notes about what we're doing. So if I could get the first slide, please. So on either side here, you can see what we're going to be doing tomorrow. For the Gold Star families in the crowd, we'll open the lobby at 7:45 in the morning. And about 8:30 or so, we'll walk you out to the stadium where the ceremony itself is going to be. We'll have coffee and some light snacks in there for you. And if you're staying in the Hampton Inn, by the way, we're going to have golf carts that are running from the Hampton to the museum. So starting about 7:45, they'll bring you to the museum and then later take you back. But as you leave tonight, we're going to hand you a VIP parking pass. If you're not in the Hampton, please get one of those, put it in your windshield, and that'll get you in a close parking spot tomorrow. 9 o'clock, the ceremony starts. It's on our parade field. This year, typically we would do the ceremony right in front of our memorial, but because of COVID and having to spread out, we couldn't figure out how to do it in the space we have next to the memorial. So we're going to take you out to our stadium. You'll still be able to see the memorial and come, you'll be walking back and forth past it on the way to and fro. After the ceremony, we'll have brunch inside the museum for you up until about noon. So whenever the ceremony ends, come inside if you want to eat. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, if we'll go to the next slide, please. One of the things that we're going to have to do tomorrow is kind of meter access into the Global War on Terrorism Memorial. The footprint of that memorial, if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty small. And we know that most of you are going to want to be looking at the same 3 or 4 granite panels. So you can see the 2 yellow arrows there, one pointed at the museum, one pointed away. The stadium is on the upper left. You can see the little blue square. That's where the stage will be. So when the ceremony's over, come down to that second little where it says metered entrance. We'll have some folks there kind of controlling access into the memorial if you want to go in and do rubbings and just look at the memorial. But if the line gets too long, please go in and have brunch. Come back later. We'll have volunteers out there for several hours that will help you do rubbings. They'll help you find names if you need to. So anyway, we appreciate you being here. We're honored to have you. This year we've got probably 365 of you Gold Star family members here. We try very hard to get information out to this community because we think this is pretty important. One of the things in the museum that we feel is important is honoring soldiers and families. And this is the best way we can think to do that. So every year, put it on your calendar, the Saturday after Labor Day, we're going to do this event, and we're going to do it as long as this war continues and we have to keep adding names to the memorial. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and then the real program will start tonight, so please enjoy your dessert. The restrooms are off to the side here to my right. If you need to use that, we'll start again in about 10 minutes. Thanks.
As we start the formal part of the evening, I again want to thank everybody again for making the journey from far and wide to come here today. We've had families from Washington State to Florida, from New Hampshire to California, and our audience this evening has converged from over 20 states to be here this evening. We're here to celebrate the lives of those that we have lost and those that we have served with. Tonight, on the eve of dedicating 40 new names on our granite panels, 26 who have paid the ultimate sacrifice since we last had this ceremony, and 14 others who have been added from previous years, our casualties in what is now our nation's longest continuous conflict has broken 7,000. But what I have learned from you, the Gold Star families, those that truly have borne the true cost of this conflict, is that beyond each of those names is a story that we must capture in all of our hearts, so we all can eventually tell all those stories. In that way, each one of those names on our granite panels will never be forgotten. Tonight, we are fortunate to not only witness your loved ones' pictures on the slideshows, and it heartens me to see you take pictures with your loved one as his face appeared, but more importantly, reflect on the courage and sacrifice of brave men and women through the eyes of a Gold Star father, a spouse, and a sister. Mr. Kevin Graves, our first speaker, is a Gold Star father. His only son, Joey Graves, 21, from Discovery Bay, California, married his childhood sweetheart, Corey, shortly before he deployed to Iraq. Joey was killed July 25, 2006, in a convoy ambush while assigned to the 110th Military Police Company, 89th Military Police Brigade from Fort Hood, Texas. Always wanting to be in the Army, Kevin signed Joey's enlistment papers his senior year of high school, allowing him to enlist in the Army at 17 and guaranteeing Joey a position in military police. After initial deployment to South Korea, Joey had barely returned to the United States before receiving orders to head for Iraq. His father, who had raised him as a single parent since he was 10, hurriedly planned his second wedding to Leanne, who is also here with us tonight, to coincide with his son's return. After Joey was killed in action, Kevin joined the California National Guard and started the nonprofit Some Gave All, the Joey Graves Foundation. Please welcome Mr. Kevin Graves, and for those of you who have met him, Sam.
He gets there eventually, but it's at his own time. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I want to tell you how honored I am to be here tonight to speak before so many fellow Gold Star families. I'm honored for that reason. Down. It's all part of the act. And secondly, and maybe more importantly, I'm honored to be asked to speak about my son. My son, Specialist Joseph A. Graves, was killed in action in what the DoD described as a well-orchestrated ambush. He was in Baghdad, Iraq on 25 July of '06. That was the night we received our knock on the door. Joy was my only son, my only child, and I had raised him as a single parent. Because of the events that occurred 19 years ago today, 9/11, Joey felt he needed to serve his country and protect it from enemies at home and abroad. He made the decision to enlist in the Army, and then he came home from school and told me he made that decision. I had his recruiter at my house within 2 hours, and I kept him there for 4 hours. At the end of the evening, I had signed the contract to put Joey in the Army through the delayed entry program. His MOS was 31 Bravo, military police. His goal was to be an FBI field agent. He did very well in school, and it seemed like a good plan. Unfortunately, it did not work out that way. So I was asked here tonight to share with you my path and my journey, my path to grieving. I firmly believe that if you cannot find a healthy path to grieving, you will die. And you will either die spiritually or you will die physically. It is the key as survivors to surviving. Find your healthy path and stay on it, because grieving does not end. You will grieve the rest of your life. I am a person of faith, and that is a very key component to my survival. Earlier I mentioned that Joey had a very good plan. However, it was not God's plan. I have had to come to terms with that. I have to believe in faith that God has a better plan than I do. And if I seek God's plan for me, I believe I will be able to hold my son again someday. Joey's sacrifice did not make me question my faith. It strengthened it. I need to acknowledge someone else, someone that God put in my life to save my life. 3 weeks before Joey deployed, he came home to be the best man at my wedding. It would be the last time any of his friends and family had an opportunity to see him. That being said, it was one of the greatest days of my life. It was really the only time the three of us, Joey, Leanne, and myself, were together. My wife, Leanne, has been my rock. She has held me when I've been broken, and she has given me the strength and courage to move forward on my path, on our journey. After Joy was killed, and as the fog started to lift in my life, which honestly took a couple of years, I had to find a passion for living again. I had spent close to 30 years in construction. I really enjoyed it and was surprisingly good at it. I mean, I wasn't Jeff Bezos good, but I was pretty good. After Joy was killed, I just could not find the passion for it. I struggled for a few years, mostly unemployed, and in and out of dark places. There were 2 or 3 major events, decisions you might say, that changed my purpose and gave me guidance. The first is the establishment of a nonprofit. Soon after Joy was killed, I started working with another Gold Star dad, a Marine father, and we worked on the Gold Star license plate bill in California. Now, California being what California is, and enough said on that. It took 2 years and 2 bills before we were able to get this bill to the governor to sign. Arnold stood by his word and immediately signed the bill. And now we have those license plates for Gold Star families in California. Thank you. But after I accomplished that goal, I hit another wall. I had this void in my life. However, I had made a realization that my healing was coming from helping others heal. So we established a small regional nonprofit, Some Gave All, the Joy Graves Foundation. Through our foundation, we provide venues for us, Gold Star families, to come together, to share, to grieve, and to take steps forward. That was 13 years ago, and we are still making a difference, and we are still saving lives. The second big change for me was that I found a new career path. I went to work for CalVet, the California Department of Veterans Affairs. I am blessed to be able to work for veterans, with veterans, and get paid for it. I handle outreach for a large part of Northern California, of which a lot of it is on fire right now. I provide benefits and resources to about 400,000 veterans. It is a dream job. And finally, and maybe the most important part of my survival, is that I joined the military after my son was killed. I felt compelled to complete his mission. At 52, and with no prior service, I joined the military. I am currently an E7, Sergeant First Class in the California Guard, and I serve as a 56 Mike, a chaplain's assistant. I serve in the National Guard's 185th MP Battalion, which ironically, was the same unit my son was attached to when he was killed in Iraq. That is a great story for another day. I am currently on orders providing spiritual and moral support to the nearly 300 soldiers of Task Force 203 that are cutting fire lines and fighting the fires north of San Francisco. I was given a 3-day pass to come out here to be with all of you and to honor our heroes. This is my path, my journey. I would suggest that you find a healthy path, that you stay on it, and honor our heroes. I want to thank the National Infantry Museum for asking me to speak. I want to thank all of you for listening to me, and God bless those of you who fell asleep. For me, on Monday, it's back to the fire lines. God bless America.
Kevin, I got to give these back to you. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for your remarks, and thank you for your service. And please be safe as you go back to Northern California. Ms. Keisha Patterson. Our next speaker is the Gold Star wife of Army Staff Sergeant Isaiah George Patterson, Jr. from Ridgeland, South Carolina. A young man who loved the military. He participated in JRTC throughout his 4 years at Casper County High School. He had already served in the Army for 8 years prior to deploying to Iraq as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. He was killed on April 29, 2004, along with 7 others by a car bomb as his unit was conducting dismounted clearance patrols for improvised explosive devices in the suburbs of Baghdad. He and the others were assigned to 4th Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment, 2nd Brigade, 1st Armored Division from Baumholder, Germany, the brigade that I was also serving with. Staff Sergeant Patterson was laid to rest on his birthday, May 11, 2004. He was survived by his parents, his loving wife, and a daughter, all of whom are here this evening. Thank you. Please welcome our Gold Star spouse.
I wrote this on paper because I thought it was going to make it easier, and it just made it harder, I think. We're going to try to get through this. Good evening. First, giving honor to God, who is truly the love and protector of all our lives. Tonight, I greet you with a heart of gratitude, a spirit of peace, and a mind filled with memories. Let me take a moment and recognize some very special guests this evening. The family of Specialist Justin Brian Schmidt. This is the only reason I got up here. Because I found out from the National Infantry Museum that his family was going to travel this year to be a part of this great event. So I told Megan yes. I told Rachel yes. I told Alonzo yes. They are seated with us tonight. And we're here honoring not only my late husband and their son, but the late Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Dayton, Sergeant Ryan Campbell, Specialist James Beckstrom, PFC Ryan Reed, PFC Norman Darling, and PFC Jeremy Ewing. All these gentlemen were under the age of 30 years old. And they all shared the same beautiful sunset. My heart is truly full. And I'm blessed to be here to answer this call. A call to duty to stand before you tonight to fulfill a prestigious service by graciously honoring some truly fine American soldiers. My husband was a man of God, a husband, a father, our hero, and a friend. We miss him dearly, as we know that you miss your loved ones as well. Before I go any further, please allow me to honor you all, all the Gold Star families that are represented here tonight. I'm assured that I'm safe in saying that your loss is shared and honored among all that are joined here, because we have one mission. We have all come to pay tribute to life. When we gaze around this room, it's total confirmation that our service members' heartbeats will forever resound, because the voices in this room will forever echo their names. It is with sincere respect to all esteemed protocol that have come to join with us this evening. In your respective positions, we say thank you. To all the prodigious, phenomenal, awe-inspiring patrons, volunteers, staff that keep the global war on terrorism living in our loved ones' honor, thank you. My wonderful friends from the SOS, and to all those that share in our pain and our healing, thank you. Thank you for being in attendance, and thank you for standing with us. My husband, Esau, was a native of South Carolina. He followed a rich family history for service and enlisted right out of high school. We met in church in January of 2000. He was just arriving here to Fort Benning. This was when Kelly Hill was the place to be. Flag football and family time was the highlight of our days on the hill. Esau never met a stranger and was a brother in arms to all his comrades. The first one up and the last one down. He was a stand-up Christian soldier, and because of his morals, respect, and most of all, the fact that he asked my daddy, and his love for life and family, is the reason that I married him in July of 2001, a month after I graduated high school. That was a beautiful day. We married in the chapel on Main Post because he was true Army, and it was going down no other way. It was a large, beautiful family wedding, and he was the sweetest, most loving, and supportive husband. To our union, we have a son who is currently stationed at Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida, a daughter attending Columbus State University on an Army ROTC scholarship, pursuing a cybersecurity degree, whom will enlist in the United States Army once commissioned, and a daughter in high school who is set to graduate as a certified EMT and enlist in the United States Air Force. I'm just so grateful because Esau's spirit is strong. And the driving force behind a lot of our children's decisions and the success to also, as he, to serve this great country. Looking back on April 29, 2004, 6 months past his original tour, The news would reach us back in the States as we were preparing for a welcome home celebration. Not the knock we want to receive and not the sight we want to see. When you have 2 service members standing on your step, trying diligently to fight back emotion, as you try to figure out how to wake up. That day, 8 young men were called into heaven's army. They had been relieved of their selfless duties here on earth and presented with wings of valor to continue the work I believe God had ultimately created for them to do. That day, Charlie Battery, 4th Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment, 1st Armored Division out of Baumholder, Germany. They took a hit that was marked as one of the most volatile days with extensive loss. The devastation was unreal. And because of the horrific nature, I never asked questions. I just don't believe I'd ever be able to truly stomach the answers. So I live knowing that these 8 soldiers are just honestly true heroes. Today is September the 11th, 2020, exactly 19 days today, and about 12 hours from when the first plane entered one of the Twin Towers, enforced multiple actions of freedom, operations of freedom, to take effect, and it sparked decades of pain for so many of us all over the world. Today we remember. And just like the memorials located in New York, we too right here at Fort Benning are blessed to have an exquisitely constructed memorial representing the global war on terrorism. It has the most refined details and captures the true heart and spirit of our loved ones. Those of you whom had the opportunity to visit, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it represents each branch of the armed forces with dignity and valor. Tomorrow, my favorite part of the rededication ceremonies will take place. It gives me the opportunity to spend a little time sharing with others and meeting those that keep everything in stellar and pristine condition. It's always bittersweet to take home a new shading of the names of my husband and the Super 7, along with that of my cousin, who is also listed among the heroes who lost his life in Afghanistan in 2009. I was asked what this memorial means to me, and in closing, I will share that with you, my truth. Not to get to see him, not to get to kiss his sweet face one last time. I think that was the hardest part. No closure. But the SOS was there for me. And they, in 2019, stood with me as I placed my husband in the Hall of Heroes at Fort Benning. And they aided in the start of my healing. I hid behind my kids for many, many years because I just did not want to accept the fact that it was true. So thank you, Alonzo, for never stop calling over the years and sending invites that always went unanswered because I just didn't want to face this kind of truth. But when I got to see the global war on terrorism a month later, and I saw that his name was guarded and protected, honored, Rachel and her team made me feel safe, knowing his legacy lives because so many of you tonight. Never in a million years could I imagine that I would be standing here sharing details of my most inner suppressed feelings, of the love for my husband and the global war on terrorism that keeps me going. The words are never enough to express the love that you all pour out to us. It's just so amazing. And these events make things light on the heart. Sometimes tears are the only way to explain something of its magnitude. So I pray that each one of you is blessed and protected in the arms of our sweet Heavenly Father. Please be safe and keep being the light to our healing. Thank you.
Keisha, thank you, and to those families that are also here. It's great to be an Iron Soldier. Our next speaker, Miss Kristen Weber, is the Gold Star sister of Air Force Captain Mark K. Weber. Captain Mark Weber, 29, a combat rescue officer, graduated from Benton, Texas in 2007. In a family of 5 siblings, he was the only boy in the middle of sisters. 2 up, 2 down. But Mark participated in football, basketball, baseball, track, and swimming, and his sister tells us he was the first to get Letterman's jacket in every sport. A 2011 graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, he spent all of his military career here in Georgia. First at Robins Air Force Base, then in the 38th Rescue Squadron at Moody Air Force Base near Valdosta. He was killed on March 15th, 2018, along with 6 others, when an HH-60 Pavhawk helicopter crashed in western Iraq. 2 sisters are here tonight, Kristen and Lori, who live in Atlanta, and Mark's parents, Ron and Marge, who have come in from Texas. Kristen and Lori were here in 2018 when Mark's name was added to the memorial and have been back each year since. And this is the first year his parents have joined us. Please welcome Ms. Christine Weber, Gold Star sister.
I promised myself I wasn't going to cry, but Keisha, thank you. That was so beautiful. All right. Steal up. My dad's in the audience. Okay. On July 31st, 1988, I became an older sister for the first time when my younger brother Mark was born. My birthday falls on August 2nd, so Mark actually came home from the hospital on my 4th birthday, and after the initial disappointment that he wasn't a puppy, which is what I had asked for, I grew to love having a younger brother. Eventually, my parents added 2 more sisters to our family, so Mark did grow up in the middle of 5 children with 2 older sisters and 2 younger sisters. There we are. That was our Christmas picture about 5 years ago, and I am aware we look like an ad for Mormon Mingle. Mark was a curious and active kid who grew into an adventurous and profoundly philosophical adult. He never passed up an opportunity to visit a new country, try a sketchy hole-in-the-wall restaurant, or jump off a cliff into water that was hopefully deep enough to accommodate his 6'6" frame. But he could also sit for hours with you, discussing life, faith, and perhaps most importantly, which gas station had the best breakfast burrito. I always insisted racetrack because they didn't leave theirs out for longer than 2 days. But Mark was convinced that the Ready Egg product used in the QT ones was a higher quality than all the rest. Mark graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2011 and spent the first several years of his career working as a contractor in Warner Robins, Georgia. This desk job, however, didn't fit his adventurous personality and desire to help people, so he eventually transitioned into the Air Force Special Forces, entering the pipeline to become a combat rescue officer with pararescue. Now, I hadn't heard of combat rescue until Mark entered the field, but it was explained to me like this. They are as well trained as the Navy SEALs. They just don't go out and write books and start podcasts about their accomplishments. Yes. All shade aside, the rescue forces of the United States Air Force conduct search and rescue missions during both peacetime and combat operations. They seek out and save the lost, the wounded, the endangered, and the fallen, day or night, in any weather, and in the face of hostile forces. At a moment's notice, and under any circumstance, they put themselves in harm's way to locate, treat, and recover those in need. They are nicknamed the Guardian Angels, and their creed is, "These things we do that others may live." To this day, I have never met a more selfless, humble, and moderately insane group of people. Mark completed his training at the end of 2017 and left for his first deployment to the Middle East in January of 2018. On the night of March 15th, just 2 months into his deployment, I received the worst phone call of my life. Mark and 6 other men had been killed in a helicopter crash while completing a night mission in western Iraq. Excuse me. I had frozen Kleenexes, which had Olaf, so when you blow your nose into it, it looks like he's melting. I should have brought those. As many in this room know, the domino of events following that phone call or that knock on the door plays out in a whirlwind. From the haunting experience of the dignified transfer to the stream of memorials and finally his funeral 4 months later, I constantly found myself asking, how can this be our story? The September after Mark died, my family received an invitation from the National Infantry Museum to attend the Gold Star Family Dinner and Global War on Terror Memorial Rededication Ceremony. My older sister and I attended, and it was at this very dinner 2 years ago that we met in person several other families who'd also lost loved ones in the same helicopter crash that night. They're the friends you wish you never had a reason to meet, but are so grateful to have. Events like these, which give the entire family an opportunity to honor, remember, and meet people with similar stories, have played a huge part in my family's healing process. After Mark's funeral, my mom gave me a shirt that said, "Live a life worthy of their sacrifice." I affectionately call this my no pressure shirt. When Mark died, a friend of mine who had experienced traumatic loss many years before told me, she said, "It doesn't seem like it now because the pain of your loss is still too close and too raw, but someday you will be able to choose how grief shapes you." We are 2.5 years into this journey, and only recently have I begun asking the question, what do I do with this terrible honor that has been handed to me? None of us walk away from loss unchanged, so how do I want to be changed? One of the things my brother and I had in common was a love for writing. We both found organizing our thoughts through words therapeutic, and as I was one of the 40 million people lucky enough to lose their job during COVID, I had a lot of time on my hands this past season. So I actually decided to write a mission statement for my grief to keep me focused and to give me purpose in it. So my grief manifesto, if you will, goes like this. I will fight to be kind, compassionate, and generous, striving to put other people's needs before my own. I will be slow in getting offended and quick in showing grace. I will do what's right, even if it's hard, and even if there's no glory. I will take seriously the things that are meant to be taken seriously, and I will laugh about everything else. I will challenge myself to grow both mentally and physically, even if it means doing push-ups. When I fail, which I do often, I will own my failure without excuse and move forward, trying again the next day. But when the heaviness of this burden begins to creep in, I will give myself permission to feel, to mourn, and even on occasion, to cry in front of total strangers in the pie section of the grocery store. Mark could never leave a grocery store without a pie, hence that bizarre trigger. I will continue to take calculated risks, and someday, in honor of my brother, I will go rappelling out of a helicopter, and I will never tell my mom. I will recognize that life can be incredibly hard and incredibly beautiful at the same time, and I will treasure the simple joys in every day. At Mark's Squadron Memorial, each person in my family was given a framed 8x10 of Mark's military portrait. Now, before I was a Gold Star sister, I was simply a big sister. So I did what any good big sister would do to her goofy younger brother's very serious military portrait. Mark always wanted a beard and a mustache, but was never able to grow facial hair, which isn't fair because I can grow it really well, which is unfair for both of us. So I granted him his wish, and this is how I will remember my brother. There is not a day goes by where I don't miss my brother. And I know that each one of you would move heaven and earth if it meant bringing back your loved one. We love hearing stories about heroes, but there's a quiet and often overlooked hero that I've discovered in the past 2.5 years. It is those who have experienced great loss and yet choose to wake up every morning and say, there is still good to be done in the world, and I'm going to go out and find it. Many in this room have been that hero to me, and I hope to be that hero to someone else. Before I end, I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge those who have served and those who are continuing to serve in our armed forces. On behalf of somebody who would never make it through 5 minutes of basic training, although as of 2 weeks ago, I can do 1 pull-up, so maybe I would make it through 6 minutes of basic training. Thank you. Thank you for taking on not only the physical aspects of war, but the mental and emotional, so that I may live and live free. Thank you for letting me share this evening. God bless us, and God bless America.
Kristen, thank you for closing this segment. And as we come to the tail end this evening, we have one speaker left. But before I get to General Metz, who will close out the night, as long as the weather is holding and I haven't seen any notices of rain, and if you have time, I recommend that if you can, take a couple minutes and drive to 1775 Legacy Way. For me, my staff, and I'll speak for the mayor, for the city of Columbus, it is great to hear that you feel that this memorial means so much to you. So if you have time tonight, in the coolness of a Georgia breeze, please go see your memorial that belongs to you and your loved ones, and anybody else you want to share that story. Because as we've heard tonight, it's about stories that we can take away with us so that we never forget. And each one of those names, all 7,030, have a story behind them. I now have the privilege of introducing Lieutenant General Tom Metz, our President and CEO, who will close out the evening. He's a phenomenal combat leader, an infantryman who has served for over 40 years. And during my last couple of months in Iraq in 2004, he was my commander as he led multinational Corps Iraq through some of its darkest initial days. Sir, General Metz.
My beautiful bride told me 30 seconds ago, if you get choked up, push your tongue up against the roof of your mouth. Hope that works. No, I'm extremely proud of each and every one of you who are here tonight. You trusted the National Infantry Museum Foundation to host a safe dinner for our Gold Star families who are here for tomorrow's rededication of our Global War on Terrorism Memorial. We needed a place to allow for the appropriate social distancing, and tonight we have our largest group, 365 Gold Star family members and others from the community in Fort Benning. Allow me to thank a few of those who have worked so hard for us to have safety tonight and enjoy such a wonderful evening. First, I'd like to thank the courageous speakers that you've just heard. Sharing your story with us is not an easy task, and sharing your experiences means so very much. Gold Star family members know what you are feeling because they've had the same feelings. Those of us non-Gold Star attendees are thankful for your courage and are so sorry for your loss. Join me in a round of applause for tonight's speakers, Kevin Graves, Christian Weber, and Keisha Patterson, please. High on my list of those to whom we owe a thank you is Rachel Goodman, and I think she might be on FaceTime listening to this. I hope she is, because she joined her husband on a PCS, and that's an acronym for Permanent Change of Station, to Germany. But with today's technology, she continues to work remotely for our foundation to make this rededication weekend the very best it can be. And I know many of you have dealt with Rachel. We thank her so much for all her hard work. Events like this just don't happen, and on the front end, we need sponsors, whom Pete outlined earlier for us. But I'd like to again thank our presenting sponsor, the Pritzker Military Museum and Library, for their great support. We also owe a big thanks to the Bibb Mill Event Center staff, who work for Jack Pizzolt, a longtime museum supporter, for all the hard work behind the scenes. I'd like to close with a challenge, which some of you can directly impact, and others a little more indirectly. But first, I've got to tell a story. The evening before Thanksgiving many, many years ago, my oldest brother came home for the long weekend. We were so proud of him, a Duke University undergraduate and graduate degree in electrical engineering, working for IBM. After all the initial hugs, he pulled out of his shirt pocket an IBM pay card, and he gave it to our dad and said, "Look at all the taxes I have to pay." My dad looked at the card, slowly looked up at my brother, gathered his thoughts, and replied, "Son, you've got a high-class problem. You've got a high-class problem. The only way you can pay a whole lot of taxes is to make a whole lot of money." I recommend that we give ourselves a high-class problem. When we dedicated the Global War on Terrorism Memorial in 2017, we had 150 Gold Star family members join us. At the first rededication in 2018, we had 130. Then 250 in 19, and 365 this year, tonight and tomorrow, 365 Gold Star family members. Let's work together, led by Rachel Goodman, to get 2021's rededication on the calendars of 500 Gold Star family members. Let's give the National Infantry Museum Foundation, that foundation's premier staff, who can do anything, let's give them a high-class problem to manage 500 instead of the 365 this year. Here at Fort Benning and across all the service's initial training centers, young citizens are turned into soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. One of the many traits that we want to instill in them is selfless service, knowing that the full dose of selfless service can mean the ultimate sacrifice. Many of today's young soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines were born after 9/11/2001. And we ask them to go around the world and put everything on the line to protect our great country and its wonderful citizens like all of us in this room. Honoring those killed in action across all the services with a memorial and an annual rededication is a very tangible way of saying thanks to those we have lost in the global war on terrorism. Currently, we have 7,032 names on the memorial you'll see tomorrow. Hopefully, next year we'll add only a very few names. But as long as there is one name to etch in the granite, we will rededicate the memorial on the first Saturday after Labor Day, and we will host this dinner no matter how many show up. You, our Gold Star family members, honor us tonight with your attendance, and we are most thankful for you and the sacrifices you have made. Have a safe year, stay well, and know that you are a very special group of great Americans. Please give us a high-class problem to solve next year, and have a good night. I love you all. Thank you.
That concludes our portion of the evening for our Gold Star family members. We do have parking passes to allow you tomorrow to park as close as you can to the museum, so please pick those up on the way out the door, and I hope to see a few of you there tonight at the memorial. Drive safe, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.